Hey guys, it's Owen from Wrestling Inc. back with another wrestling news roundup. Without any further ado, let's get into today's biggest stories in the world of professional wrestling. Backstage news on recent WWE superstar name changes. WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon reportedly issued a recent decree on superstar ring names. There have been recent changes to WWE superstar ring names, and the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that the roster recently received a memo that included a decree from Vince, who doesn't want anyone new using their real names anymore or the names they've used before on the indies. The former Walter became Gunther because Walter was his real name and a name he used on the indies. Marcel Bartel's name change to Ludwig Kaiser is interesting, as this was a WWE owned name that he never used before WWE. Raul Mendoza was changed to Cruz del Toro this past week, but there's no word on if he is being called up from WWE NXT. Pete Dunne was renamed to Butch. Raquel Gonzalez was renamed to Raquel Rodriguez this past week when she was brought to SmackDown, but she kept her real first name. There are obvious exceptions to this rule, like every rule. It was noted that the decree applies mostly to people just coming to the main roster, but obviously does not apply to Cody Rhodes or Gable Steveson. It was announced this past week that Austin Theory is now going by just Theory. There was speculation on this name change being related to WWE Hall of Famer Stone Cold Steve Austin, but that was not the case. The Observer notes that Theory's name was changed because his real name is Austin White. Satnam Singh AEW debut reportedly receives mixed internal reactions. Backstage talk on his training. There were reportedly mixed locker room reactions to the AEW debut of Satnam Singh. As noted, Wednesday's AEW Dynamite ended with Singh, Sonjay Dutt and Jay Lethal taking out new Ring of Honor World Television Champion Samoa Joe right after his main event title victory over Minoru Suzuki. It was later reported that Singh, who signed last September, was brought into storylines as a way to bridge a gap between AEW and the Discovery-owned Eurovision India channel, and to help grow AEW's brand in India. In an update, a new report from Fightful Select notes that multiple AEW talents did not think Singh's debut was executed well. However, many do believe that the business side of the decision was a good one. It was noted that several AEW talents had the same reaction that many fans on social media had, with some indicating that it was a matter of circumstance that made the debut fall flat, from the positioning on the card to the lights off, lights on reveal. One AEW source felt that doing the lights off, lights on reveal for an unknown talent isn't optimal, and that AEW should have introduced Singh in another way. There is some optimism within the AEW roster, as people are hearing that the debut was a business move to help AEW in India, but most still do not feel that the execution was done the right way. One source indicated that if accelerating the growth in India would help their salary when it comes to time for contract renewal negotiations, then they're willing to accept a bad debut. The report noted how it's important to remember that talent opinions on various segments are subjective and only reflect what certain talents are saying, as opposed to a general locker room feeling. There's no word yet on when Singh will make his in-ring debut, but word going around is that he has been working hard at training since being signed last September. AEW sources who have trained with Singh or seen him train noted that he has a good attitude and a willingness to learn. One source noted that Singh has been doing good in the ring so far and has been training every day for the past 8 months. It was also said that Singh, quote, has some tricks up his sleeve that will surprise some people. AEW announced back in September that Singh was to begin training immediately under QT Marshall and new WWE superstar Cody Rhodes at the Nightmare Factory. Singh, a 7'3" former basketball player, was featured in the 1-hour Netflix documentary titled One in a Billion in January 2017, which covered Singh's life and the journey to the NBA. Singh also had a WWE tryout back in 2017. AEW Dynamite draws lowest viewership and key demo ratings since early March. Wednesday's live edition of AEW Dynamite drew 977,000 viewers on TBS, according to Nielsen via Showbuzz Daily. This is down 1.21% from last week's episode, which drew 989,000 viewers. This week's Dynamite drew a 0.37 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic. This is down 2.63% from last week's 0.38 rating. This week's 0.37 key demographic rating represents 486,000 viewers who watched the show from the 18 to 49 key demo. Dynamite ranked number 3 on the cable top 150 this week with a 0.37 rating in the 18 to 49 key demographic. This is down from last week's number 2 ranking. Dynamite ranks number 33 in viewership for the night on cable this week. This is down from last week's number 31 ranking. Wednesday's Dynamite drew the lowest total audience since the post-Revolution episode on March 9 and the lowest key demo rating since March 2nd, which was the Revolution Go Home show. Wednesday's Dynamite viewership was down 1.21% from last week, while the key demo rating was down 2.63% from last week as well. This week's Dynamite viewership was down 19.85% from the same week in 2021. The key demo rating was down 15.90% from the previous year. The 2021 episode was the first following the move to Tuesdays for WWE NXT. Drew McIntyre vs Roman Reigns for undisputed WWE title set for UK. WWE has announced the top matches for their upcoming live events in the UK and France. WWE will run Newcastle, England on Thursday, April 28, the O2 Arena in London, England on Friday, April 29, Paris, France on Saturday, April 30th, and Leipzig, Germany on Sunday, May 1st. The following matches have been announced for the London and Paris events. Undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns vs Drew McIntyre. SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair vs Ronda Rousey, Raw Tag Team Champions RK Bro vs SmackDown Tag Team Champions The Usos, WWE Intercontinental Champion Ricochet, WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Sasha Banks and Naomi, Gunther and Bobby Lashley are also scheduled for the shows, among others. WWE will be announcing the matches for Newcastle and Leipzig events in the coming days. On a related note, WWE has not announced the Friday, April 29 show in London as a SmackDown TV taping. However, the Friday, April 22nd SmackDown taping from the MVP Arena in Albany, New York has a special start time of 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time and looks to be a double TV taping. This means the April 29 SmackDown on Fox episode will be a tape show. Backstage news on the top WWE Raw Women's Division heels and babyfaces. Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair is currently listed internally as the top female babyface on WWE's Red Brand roster, according to PW Insider. While Alexa Bliss, who tied the knot with Ryan Cabrera this past weekend, has been away from the storyline since Elimination Chamber, she is currently listed as the number 2 female Raw babyface, while Rhea Ripley, who is rumoured for a heel turn on Liv Morgan, is listed as number 3. Regarding the heels on Raw, Becky Lynch is listed internally as the top heel Raw superstar for the women's division. Lynch has not been seen since dropping the Raw Women's Championship to Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 38. Carmella and Queen Zelina Vega are listed after Lynch on the heel side for the female Raw roster. They dropped the WWE Women's Tag Team titles to Sasha Banks and Naomi at WrestleMania 38 and split up due to Carmella leaving for her wedding and honeymoon with Corey Graves. Belair is set to defend her title against Sonya Deville, likely at the WrestleMania Backlash Premium Live event on May 8. Banks and Naomi will defend their titles against Ripley and Morgan on Monday's Raw. So what are your thoughts on today's Wrestling News Roundup? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling Inc. and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.